Hi, this is Joseph with Conscious Collective, and in this video, I felt inspired to share a message about self-judgment, self-acceptance, and self-love. Because so many of us judge ourselves so harshly. We have this inner critic within our minds that is constantly limiting us, thinking negative thoughts about ourselves, judging us, shaming us, and making us just feel like we're not enough, like we're not worthy. And I want to speak to this and mention a way that can help you to overcome this inner critic, to overcome this self-judgment, and to develop more love and kindness for yourself. So there's a quote that came to me once when I was writing, and it's one that I refer back to often because I really think that it summarizes a very important point. And the quote is, "Any time that you worry that someone is going to judge you, that is really just you judging yourself." So think about all the times that you're concerned that someone is going to judge you. Maybe when you leave your house and you go to the store, you go out into the world, you're really concerned about the way you look. You're worried that someone's going to judge you for the way that you look. Or maybe you want to share something. Maybe you wrote something that, or created some art that you want to share, and you're worried that someone is going to, laugh at it, make fun of you, or judge you. Or maybe you are at an event and you want to dance and feel free to express yourself, and that limiting thought, that inner critic comes in and gives you a million reasons why you shouldn't, and the fear kicks in, and you listen to that inner critic. You listen because you think that it's going to protect you. And instead of having fun and expressing yourself, you play small so that you won't be judged or made fun of. And I think this ties back to a very primal need that we have to feel loved by other people, to have social acceptance in the tribe. It feels like this very primal need that we all have. But recognizing that need, we can also recognize that we can provide love for ourselves. We don't need other people's validation. We don't need other people's approval to be ourselves. And we can still receive love for the person that we actually are, instead of who we think others want us to be or how we think we should show up in the world. So this inner critic, this inner judge, there's another process that helped develop this that I think is helpful to understand. And this is the process of domestication. So all of us have been domesticated. We've all been tamed to be able to fit in our society, to be socially acceptable. And those that aren't domesticated have a really hard time. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but the process of domestication occurs in this very simple way. It's essentially a process of reward and punishment. Our good behavior is rewarded, our bad behavior is punished, and we learn through that. We learn through that positive and negative reinforcement. If you drop a dish on the floor and it breaks and your mother yells at you, you feel bad. You've been, punished, and you feel like, okay, I better not break a dish again because then I'm going to be punished. And in the same way, let's say you clean the dishes and your mother rewards you, and you learn, wow, I get rewarded. I get some more love if I clean these dishes, so maybe I should do that more often. It's a very simple thing that we all learn how to do in our own unique ways from our own unique upbringings. We learn the ways that we were rewarded and the ways that we are punished. And so over time, this inner critic, this inner judge develops because it wants to avoid that external punishment. It doesn't want to be punished by other people. It doesn't want to be punished by, mom or dad or by the kids at school, because it doesn't feel good. And so rather than, instead of receiving that external punishment, we create this inner judge that rewards and punishes us internally to prevent that external punishment. And this inner judge becomes incredibly limiting. It creates all of these negative limiting thoughts that, instead of, let's use this example of dancing, instead of dancing and just moving your body and having fun, there's the fear that maybe someone will punish me if I do that in some way, whether, physically or emotionally or verbally. And to avoid that possibility of external punishment, I better just not do that. I better play small. I better not express myself. So that's the role and the function of this inner judge. And you can imagine that it served us at some point in our lives, or maybe there are areas in our lives where it still serves us, where we still don't feel like we're safe to express ourselves or to be ourselves. And this judge is there to keep us from to protect us from harm. And so I think to notice that is a really valuable insight, because rather than judging the inner judge, rather than punishing the inner critic or criticizing the inner critic, we can realize that the very function of this inner judge is to protect us. And over time, as we grow, we have to let go of this inner critic, this inner judge, and learn how to feel more secure in ourselves, in the world, and to express ourselves. And so we have to let go of that inner judge, but to recognize that it's just there to protect you and to keep you safe. We can at least develop some appreciation for it, some love for it, some gratitude for it. So, thank you, inner critic, for looking out for me, for trying to protect me. But I'm growing and I am, safe. I'm able to express myself freely. These are the kind of ways we have to start to reprogram this inner critic. So going back to this thought, this phrase of anytime you're worried that someone is going to judge you, that is really just you judging yourself. What that's also speaking to is the fact that, what we perceive in the world is a reflection of what we hold within our minds, within our hearts. If you feel very fearful and have a lot of anxiety, everything in the world is going to be colored by that lens of fear. Everything will look like something that could be potentially scary or dangerous. If within yourself you have a lot of love and appreciation and joy, everything in the world is going to look really beautiful. Everything is going to be something that inspires joy for you. And so the objective reality that we perceive is a reflection of our subjective thoughts and emotions. And so, when someone judges you, when you're worried that someone else is going to judge you, that is, not only is that you judging yourself, but anyone that does judge you is projecting their own self-judgment onto you. They're projecting their internal workings, thoughts, and emotions onto the experience that they're having. So it really has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them and their own perception. And so even if it seems very personal, like something directly about you, we have to understand that it really doesn't have anything to do with us. It has everything to do with that person, the way that they perceive. And if they're being, super negative and critical towards you and really hateful and judgmental, of course you want to protect yourself from that kind of energy and maybe not be around that person, or find a way to get away from that person so you can, have those boundaries. But we also have to understand that person is suffering. That person is in agony within themselves. Someone has to be in so much pain to start to project anger, hatred, and criticism onto another person. It doesn't mean that it's okay. It doesn't justify their behavior, but we can at least understand where that's coming from and give more insight into our own judgment, because judgment is arising from fear. When we don't understand something, we judge it. We put it in some category to try to make us feel safer about it. And so when you hold a lot of self-judgment, your internal state is likely going to be one of a lot of fear. And so the way that we can transform this is by practicing self-love. And I really want to emphasize that word, practicing self-love, because so many of us have been conditioned by that inner critic, by society, by social standards and expectations to think and feel very lowly of ourselves. We have a very low self-worth and low self-esteem as a culture. The majority of us do. And to develop self-love, self-confidence is something that takes practice. It's like you water these seeds of self-love every day. And as you do, those seeds begin to grow and flourish and eventually flower. But it takes that constant, repetitive watering. And what's key to this whole process is mindfulness, is awareness. So start to be aware of the thoughts that you have. Start to notice those the inner dialogue, the inner critic, the inner judge, and just observe it. Don't observe it in a way, don't believe the thoughts, don't observe those thoughts as if they're true or if they're real. Don't even observe them as if they're your own thoughts. They're just thoughts that are arising in your mind. And if you can just look at them in that way, very impersonally, that these are just thoughts that are arising, you don't have to believe them. And if you don't believe them, they have no power over you. A thought is only as real as you believe it to be. So in recognizing these thoughts, just for one, notice them and realize where they're coming from. Are they coming from a place of love, a place of fear, maybe a conditioned pattern? And can you replace them with something different? Can you notice a thought of inner judgment, something that's limiting you? Can you notice it and maybe thank it? Maybe say, thank you for trying to protect me, trying to look out for me. But I love myself and I'm choosing to do this thing anyway. So I always relate this back to a personal experience where I had sort of a big aha moment for myself. Was when I was dancing. I was at a music festival and I just wanted to dance and feel free and move my body. And I kept having that inner judge come up and be worried that this person over there that I've never met, this person I don't know, they're gonna judge me. They're gonna make fun of the way that I dance or the way that I move. And I would notice that inner judge and think to myself, okay, am I going to let this fear stop me from having fun and having a good time and expressing myself? Or am I going to acknowledge it, that it's just there to look out for me, to protect me, but that I'm going to dance anyway, even if it feels a little awkward or a little uncomfortable, I'm going to do it anyway. And that's what I did the whole night. So whenever that fear, that inner judgment came up, I would notice it and say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm okay. And then I would just dance, move my body, continue to have a good time. And I do that to this day, even when, making videos, sometimes I have a little bit of fear or limiting thoughts come up, and I just notice that they're there and I just do it anyway. Say like, thank you, but I'm all right. And I start to have this, less belief, less energy invested in these thoughts, and more belief and confidence and love in myself. And again, it's a practice. It's something that continues to build day after day, the more that we water these seeds. But the more that you develop love for yourself, the less it matters what other people think of you, the less you're dependent on the need for acceptance or validation from other people, and the more free that you become. If you truly have love for yourself and acceptance of who you are, and you feel comfortable and content to just be yourself, even if other people don't get it, even if other people don't understand it, that's fine. That's their journey. That's their right to perceive things the way that they do, and you can't control that. So there's no need to stress your whole life over what other people think of you, whether someone's going to accept you or not. It's better to just let that all go now, as soon as you can, and start to be yourself freely, because then your authentic self can show up and shine in the world. And then it can speak to the hearts of other people that recognize that authenticity and inspires them to be their authentic self. And that's what this world needs, is more love, more truth, more authenticity, less fear, less judgment, less hatred. So I wanted to create this video as a source of inspiration, hopefully, and also to offer some tools and insights and tips for overcoming that inner critic. So the essential point of what has helped me overcome it is just to notice it, to observe it, and to realize it's just looking out for me. It's just trying to protect me. But so to thank it, to look at it with gratitude, but then to not listen to it, not let it have power over me, and to do the thing that I'm afraid of, and to encourage myself along the way, like letting myself know, I got this. I'll be fine even if I am laughed at. I'll be fine even if I am, judged or made fun of, because I love me, I accept me. And so the more that you affirm these positive thoughts towards yourself, and the more you challenge your fears and do the things that you're afraid of, those fears will begin to dissolve. The things that you were once afraid of will have no power over you whatsoever. But if you always listen to that inner critic and that inner judge, and you listen to every fearful thought that arises in your mind, then you're always going to be playing small. You're never going to grow, and you're going to remain stagnant in your life. It's a very It's a really big deal. And you don't have to be living in that prison of fear. You don't have to suffer from those limiting negative thoughts. You can change them right this very moment. You can change them, and you can start to be more loving, more kind, more compassionate to yourself, and to believe in yourself, to believe in who you are as a person and what you're capable of, because we all have truly infinite potential within us that we can actualize in this life. And to do so is a really fun, exciting, and beautiful journey. So start to love yourself more, start to practice, emphasize those words, practice self-love, self-acceptance. And if you don't live up to your ideals or your expectations, that's okay too. Have self-love and self-kindness in that aspect too. So whatever you're going through, whatever challenges you face, try to be as kind and loving to yourself as possible, and try to give more energy to that voice of self-love rather than that voice of self-judgment. That's my wish for you today. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that it benefits you. If it does benefit you, or if there are any insights that you've gained, please share them in the comments. I would love to hear your feedback, love to hear where you're at with this journey of self-love, self-growth. So again, thank you for taking the time to watch this. Hope that you have a beautiful day. Much love.